Hey guys, what's going on? I'm David Avon here with my co-host Robert Drysdale, and on today's episode we have a very special guest, none other than UFC vet, host of the podcast, and you've done quite a bit. Let me just get you in there, Eliot
Yeah.
Marshall. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? How are you? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I was just reading up a little bit about you, and I realized we're birthday brothers, July
Yeah,
7th.
I think I knew that too. I think I knew that too from a while ago because, we were all kind of doing it at the same time and,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
competing thing, but we,
Same
you guys were
store,
ahead
no?
of me.
Same day.
Like he's a year older. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
he's 40. I'm 39. We're
Yeah.
close though, pretty
Okay.
close.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I guess to get started, just for people who are not familiar with you, just give us a little bit about your background in the martial arts. Like, how did you get
Yes.
started?
So, man, I got started in 1986. I saw the Karate Kid and I crane kicked a lamp in my house and my parents were like, "All right, well, let's
A
put you in
great
karate."
start.
Yeah. So, I did karate, right? Like most of us 80s kids did. There was no jujitsu in America or anything like that. I had a very interesting upbringing. Karate actually probably was my savior. It was the difference between, for example, me and my sister, who didn't get too into it because we were very different. I had a black dad and a Jewish mom whose parents survived the concentration camps. So with my dad older, not older, but like when he growing up is 1950s and 60s. So right through civil rights. So a lot of fear in the household, I would say. Um,
Mhm.
and I learned like things like I never fit in anywhere. Like my house would get spray painted with swastikas and racial slurs and all kinds of stuff. But at karate, I always fit in. So yeah, so martial arts was kind of my thing. And then towards the end of my karate tenure, the late 90s, my friend, we had a tournament, a karate tournament, and he dodged me. He did like the masters division, and I was like, and it was just sparring, so like it wasn't full contact. So you would fight your friends, right? Like you'd spar against your friends in a tournament. Um, I was like, you dodged me. You're scared. And he's like, oh, you think so? He's like, come over to my house on Friday. And I was like, oh, sure, no problem, old man. And I go over his house and I have no clue what jujitsu is. I have no clue that he's like about to get his blue belt, but we were like kind of the same level at karate, but he could wrestle and do jujitsu because he was a state champ wrestler. And oh my God, it blew my mind. Like it just blew my mind. I was like, oh my, I can't fight at all, you know?
What year was this?
This was 1998. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so it's
97. No,
early in the
97,
game.
97. Sorry. Yeah.
That's when I
Super early in
started
the
too,
game.
97,
Yeah.
98. Yeah. I think everyone has that story of getting their asses kicked by someone and realizing they can't
Yeah.
fight for shit.
Yeah.
Because you think you can fight, until you get your butt kicked by a 13-year-old and you go like, okay, I can't.
Oh,
Yeah, mine was Jeet Kune
Yeah.
Do, and we never sparred when I did Jeet Kune Do. We did all forms and katas and hitting pads. And my brother and I thought we were both Bruce Lee
Yeah.
until I remember the first realization was with Kendo because we were doing Kali and stick fighting, and I
hmm
thought, oh, my cousin was doing Kendo properly, right? And he had the whole practice swords, which essentially is bamboo with a little
Yeah.
layer of foam. And I'm like, oh, let's spar. And okay. And I'm trying to catch the sword and all that, and just getting whacked in the head nonstop. I'm like, God, this isn't working like in practice. Why?
Yeah. What the hell's going on right now? This is not
Yeah.
supposed to happen. You know? So I didn't I kind of started then, because the closest school was the Mirgalisi brothers, or it wasn't their school actually. It was what was it called back in the day? What's his name? They're God, why can't I remember his name right now? He had a son who was really good for a while. Philly.
In Philly, Maxwell, Steve Maxwell, or was it
Maxwell,
Brown?
yes. Steve Maxwell,
Maxwell, yeah.
Maxercise. So
Yeah.
Maxercise was the only place around, but I was like 17. So getting to Philly was like 45 minutes from my house. So that was kind of hard. And uh I like learned a little bit from my buddies at this point. Like John, like my friend John Hassett, who was doing, he was doing karate. He did karate and he was one who beat me up that day. He's a black belt now under Helson and the Migliosi brothers. So that's, we're all still in, which is kind of cool. And then when I moved to Colorado, I met Amal Easton, who's my teacher and now business partner. I met him at a mall. He was doing trying to get students. And then, I trained for like a month, ran out of money. He was teaching out of like a karate school. And then a year later in 99, I heard that he opened his own place. And I went and I was like, yo, got no money still, but I can clean. And he was like, man, it's your lucky day. My cleaner literally just quit 2 hours ago. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. So, and now I'm the owner, right? He and I are, 50, the majority owners that like together. So you can go from cleaner to owner. It's possible.
Wow, that's an amazing story, man. Like that is hard to do because I mean, I've had terrible cleaners in my gym. Like I couldn't imagine any of them making it to be partners at the gym, but I had some good ones too.
He'll still say that nobody until we hired professionals, nobody cleaned the gym better than me.
Yeah, you know what? It's in general, not just the cleaning part, but there's something about having someone invested in the business just makes it run easier because they put their heart and soul into it versus just getting paid to do something they hate. And let's be frank, who likes to clean, right? Like no one ever likes that. So I think that in itself it says a lot about, things you can do to run a business in general is just like giving them some kind of stake or the promise of something like that. It gives them the incentive. I've finally figured that out late in life, and I think it makes a big difference.
It's what I call like ownership mentality, right?
Yeah.
When somebody who works somewhere, but like they're not just like I'm clocking in. I actually feel like this is my place. I want to make this place better. And those are rare people to find that they can have a claim in the business without even actually having, a percentage of the business at that point, but they're just invested in it. And it makes a big difference. Like in my gym, I had a similar story. I had a guy working night shift and he ended up opening up his own franchise under us. And now he has his own gym and he's doing really well, but same type of rag to riches, story, but he was somebody who was invested, like he knew that, like he felt like, it's like when you walk by let's say the locker room and you see a little piece of garbage on the floor. Guy with ownership mentality is like, oh no, I'm picking that up. But normal guy, like, whatever, it's not my place, not my shit.
Trash.
Yeah.
Not my trash. Yeah.
Exactly.
Man, and for me, it was really, I guess it's a twofold thing here. Amal did a good job, and I'll explain both kind of. For me, I think everything has a cost, right? Like everything we do, it costs something. Now, the way, 90% of our students come to the school, the cost is money, right? Like they pay money, they get training. Well, for me, I didn't have any money, but I still knew that this is something that I really wanted. So I better, from my perspective, I was like, man, I better clean the fuck out of this toilet because the jiu-jitsu is really, really important to me. Like getting good at this is what I wanted for my life. So I better do I better make sure I pay up. And then I better make sure I take advantage of the opportunity I've been given by coming as much as possible. Now for Amal, what he did on his end was he showed me a path forward. So very, within months, I moved from not just cleaning, but cleaning and teaching, and then I could stop teaching. He hired another cleaner and I was just teaching. So, and then it gradually built, and I could always see a path. So from a business perspective, for your employees, even if it's a martial arts school, if people don't see the path to something more, to where are they going to go next? It's a very hard thing. And I have to say, it's probably one of the things that we've done best with Easton is, we have 7 schools, 150 employees, and there's a path forward for everybody wherever you are. Even the CEO has a path forward, and I'm not the CEO, and neither is Amal.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to have that plan laid out and that that knowing that there's a lot of room for growth regardless of where you stand. And all those schools in Colorado, right? Like I've been in one of them.
All of them. All of them on the western slope. I'm sorry, on the eastern slope, on the foothills, like in the Denver metro area, it's called. So yeah, they're all here. And we actually just started an online thing for other schools to learn how to do it a little more skillfully.
Nice.
Run their schools, that is, where we created a course and they consult with me. about, just some very basic steps that they can do to I don't like to say better, do a more skillful job with their school. Because look, schools are hurting right now. COVID sucked for every single person, right? COVID sucked. I mean, maybe Amazon, right? Amazon did pretty well. UPS probably killed it.
Yeah.
But,
Walmart,
Walmart crushed it, Home Depot, all the, but they had billions already. But for the rest of us, COVID really sucked. And I would like to say people realize what's important to them and what's not important to them, and they're not going to waste their time with things that other people don't do skillfully. So I think the jiu-jitsu schools the martial arts schools in general need to step their game up a little bit, so that, we are really providing what it is we say we're providing when somebody walks through our doors.
Yeah, I mean, that's spot on. I think, like you said, when people go through a crisis like this, it really wakes you up and like, I gotta tighten my ship because I can't afford to have any leaks in this funnel, because anybody that you lose potentially could be like your rent. You know what I mean?
Well, COVID was very difficult for me, gym owner wise, personally. It was hard, but at the end of it all, I mean, I'm not, don't want to be disrespectful to people who lost loved ones and all that. There's a lot of suffering, financial and emotional, but it was actually a good thing for me. Like, believe it or not, it actually worked in my favor. It sucked financially. I lost a ton of money. Like, I'm just doing my 2020 tax. That's when you realize, when you look at your tax returns, like how much money you actually missed out on. And that's like, oh, that sucks. But financially, notwithstanding, it was one of the best years of my life, man. Like, it was an opportunity to shake things up and change things, reset, moving forward with a completely new mindset. And I think that I personally, maybe not can't speak for everyone here, I needed a hard stop. And I think COVID did that for me. It was like, you know what, let's reset and let's start all over again with a different mindset. And it really worked for me. Even though, like I said, financially it sucked.
Yeah, financially, I agree. Financially, it wasn't the best. I think I actually saved more money because I couldn't go anywhere, right? Like that might have been true. So I think I don't know what the bottom line for my bank accounts, personal bank, my business bank account sucked, but my personal bank accounts, like I don't know what the bottom line ended up looking like, because I didn't do anything for a year, like including like just going out to eat, right? You didn't do any of that like you used to. So I think I was down for sure, but whatever. Not something where I was like, oh my God, how am I going to eat today? But I would agree with you, bro. As an overall, and again, like you said, no disrespect to someone who lost a loved one. I had to look at my life a little bit again and be like, okay, is this what I want to be doing? Is this how I want to be spending my time? And most of it was a yes. More of what that most of it was, which means I had to get rid of something. So, because like I said, everything has a cost, right? So where else do I want to spend my time, and what am I going to give up? Because you can't give up. There's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah,
you got to be willing to let something go. So a lot of times the things that you don't want to let go are the ones that you need to let go the most, right? And that's how it. Like I cut some things out of my life, and it's been for the better. But it was like, I can't live without this, sort of thing. Like, I need this in my life, right? Or like, I have to be doing this and that. And then when you stop doing it, like, wait a second, this just freed up my time tremendously. It's like that 80-20 principle. It's cliche to say it, but it really is one of those things. That the things that exhaust you the most give you the least returns. And the things that don't exhaust you are actually pleasurable or give you the most returns. You just have to have the wisdom to find what those things are. And then have the balls, have the cojones to cut what you don't want. Because at the end of the day, okay, even if you are making a ton of money doing something you don't like, is that really how you want to live? Like, I ask myself this question: would I trade my life with Elon Musk? I wouldn't. Like, honestly, I don't know what his life is like, but like, I don't think
if you had to be you and go do Elon Musk, no way. If you could be Elon Musk, because I think Elon Musk loves his life, he wouldn't trade with you either, right? Mine is money.
But like,
I don't you as Robert Drysdale, no fucking way.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much money you made, but like, even so, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a good life. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's better than mine. I have no idea. But I think that's like, one thing we have to all have to learn how to do is how to cut the things that aren't us. Like whatever it is that you are, that's what you have to be pursuing. Like, who are you? And once you know who you are, you can start working to become that person.
Well, I
Yeah,
think that's a huge question right there, is who are you? Because and I don't think it's a one answered thing, right?
No,
It's
it's there's no
like who
cookie
you
cutter
are.
answer.
Yeah, there's no cookie, but I don't think people actually spend time thinking about, like, wait a minute, who am I? What it's simple questions, and from in my opinion, I am, I can, I will. Who am I? What am I capable of? And what will I do to achieve those things? Right. And that's where you start to really find your mindset, is right. But before you can get to that, what will you do? You got to know who you are. Like, what is it? What are these things that when the earth starts to shake and COVID hits and all that stuff, like what is the unmovable objects? What are the unmovable objects that are you? I think those are good questions that we all need to ask ourselves.
yeah, I think that's something that's lost on probably this generation is just self-reflection. I mean, put somebody in a room without a phone and they start going crazy.
Yeah,
And
because their sense of identity is tied to their Instagram.
it's not just that, it's like they have that endorphin rush whenever they get a like or whenever they get a friend request or a comment, and they're just on this pursuit of endorphins, and they don't have time for anything else or things that matter. And I think that's kind of taking people away from, if you think back like 500 years ago, what were you doing around a campfire? You were having a conversation, which was probably meaningful, or you were reflecting on what happened to the day or perhaps in your life. And it gives you time to be a philosopher, or to think about what your purpose is or what motivates you. But when there's a constant deluge of information that's passing through, you have to process the information and you never have time to actually just reflect. And I don't know, I was fortunate because I guess in a way, when I was younger, I was very shy, like dreadfully shy, and I didn't have any friends besides my brother, and I spent a lot of time to myself. So I got to reflect and think a lot as a younger man. So it's not a skill that's lost on me. But I think now for people, that's probably a lot more difficult, just because there's so much distraction. And it's, even if you're trying to avoid it, it's difficult, right? Like if you're just outside, there's banners and there's boards, and now you go to the gas station, they have commercials playing on the gas station. It's like, it's like everywhere you're going, you're being bombarded. So
I
it's
don't even think, yeah, I don't think it's a problem just for the young people. I think it's a problem I think there's 40-year-old dudes out there that have no fucking clue who they are.
oh, yeah.
Even ones like, even ones that have made a lot of money and they're highly successful. Like, but then you watch the crumble of them because they've done no work on who is Elliot. What does that have a definition? Does that have a meaning? So you can have all the money in the world, like you said, Robert. You could be Elon Musk, but with a ton of money. But if Elon Musk doesn't know who Elon Musk is, he's always going to be chasing that high, whether it's the Instagram like, which he's probably passed, or whether it's some other high that's probably unhealthy.
There's an inscription over the Oracle of Delphi in ancient Greece read, "Know thyself." Right? The Oracle of Delphi was somewhere for you to walk in and ask any question. The Oracle was going to tell you, and it's like sort of like the ancient version of Google, right? You ask, and here's the answer. But like it's important that it said that know thyself, because you can't, I think what they were implying is that you can't get an answer out of this unless you know who you are. You can ask any question, you're not going to get the right answer unless you actually have an idea of who you are. And once you know yourself and you know what you're really made out of, right? And that requires a certain degree of honesty, which is difficult because we all like to think of ourselves better and higher than we actually are. It takes a tremendous amount of discipline and honesty to look at yourself and go, this is what I'm made of. And maybe I don't like that picture, but that's the reality of who you are, right? And then you can start asking questions about, what about this? What about that? And once you can start answering those questions, once you have that honest picture of yourself, I think the answers come a lot easier, right? And I think that's why there's so much wisdom there. Know thyself, because what you want to be or how you perceive yourself to be is not necessarily how you are, right? They're two different things. Like just to go off, not kind of off topic here, a while ago, I don't know if I should say this or not, but here we are. The die is cast. I did mushrooms a while ago, it was like a couple years ago. And it was a very painful experience because it was what some people would refer to as a bad trip, right? It wasn't bad. It was bad at the moment, but afterwards it was like enlightening because it forced me to look at some things about myself that I didn't like and I was in denial about. And it was just very painful. It's like I didn't know, like, but it was so crystal clear right in front of me. This is what you don't like about yourself, and it's there, and you can avoid it all you want, but that's there, right? And then it was very painful. But afterwards, the next day, I felt great because I felt like this thing got moved off my shoulders. Like, okay, I know now. Maybe I still don't like it, but at least I know for sure, and I can work with that now versus being in denial about it. And how can you make progress about anything if you're in complete denial about the problem, right? So I think the question of knowing yourself, it does come down to honesty, just taking a close look at yourself in the mirror and accepting whatever is there, and versus trying to change it, or like not change it, but like being in denial about it.
The denial, I think the universe is going to come talk to you about it. You know, I know it did for me. I'm a anxiety. I am someone who can experience really intense anxiety. And I don't know, 5 years ago now, you know, the universe said, "Hey man, you're going to have to fucking deal with this." And it was painful. It was long. Like that's the subject of the book that I wrote, The Gospel of Fire. And yeah, it was a long, uncomfortable, not a lot of sleep, a lot of crying, a lot of fear, all wrapped up into like figuring out a little bit of like, you know, what you just said. I was in denial of it and it was forced upon me to look at and address and go down a different path with my life. So that was a very interesting experience. I mean, different than a mushroom trip or different than some type of psychedelic that kind of showed it to you. This was something that I had buried down for years and years that I had to then address, you know,
Did you take something?
Kids.
Did you take something and get it pop out or no? It just came out on its own?
No, man, just dude, it was I just got back from a vacation in Hawaii and I had just basic jet lag where, you know, you can't sleep, whatever. But the not sleeping sent me down a whirlwind. Like it made me go crazy. And then I didn't sleep. I probably didn't, you know, to the point where I was up all night pacing the house, having panic attack after panic attack. It was 5 nights in a row, no sleep. You know, maybe catch a couple hours here or there. And then I needed help. You know, I needed a lot of help at the end of that 4 days. Like I didn't, you know, I was super lucky that I had people to help, friends that would stay on the phone with me all night long, if that was necessary, as I like freaked the fuck out for, you know, 10 hours straight. And then, yeah, I slowly had to just dive into what is this? You know, what is this? You know, and how am I going to deal it? And how am I going to move about my life forward?
Yeah, I think that's something everyone has to go through, whether, you know, like you tap into it yourself like you did, or you need help like I needed help, you know, from like psychedelics. But I think everyone should do that I mean, not sometimes or at one point in their life, but like all the time. I'm not saying you should be, you know, doing mushrooms all the time. So it's probably not healthy.
Easy, Joe.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's a very necessary experience that everyone should go through in adult life at some point, because there's no way that you're going to be aware of every aspect of yourself. There's so much that we bury. Like I know I was, right? I'm sure there's some things about you that you buried it's just too painful to confront, right? But that right there is the first step. And once you figure that out, like knowing yourself, I think it's so much easier to plan your life and live the life that you want to live, because it's based off of your nature, right? The way I've always looked at it is like if you have like a marble stone, there's only so many things you can carve out of it. Like that's what's given you. But you can shape it in many different ways. You just got to find out what kind of marble stone you're given when you're born, and then you shape yourself accordingly to what you actually want to be. But it's not something that is done, you know, it's not easier said than done, of course, but I think that's how you go about like living the life that you want to live. It's just finding out what you're made of first and foremost. Like find out what you're made of, and then you can go from there.
And I think there's also a process of you have to constantly reflect again, because we're not static.
Yeah.
We're changing, right? And I think it's something, Eliot, you were mentioning before the podcast started, was like how like fighters transition post-career. Because you might have found yourself before and like, I'm a fighter, I want to, you know, challenge myself and push my body to its limits. But then once your career ends, if you're still tied to that old identity, then you have that pain because you're longing for something that's no longer there. And like you haven't made a new identity for yourself, or you haven't transitioned into something different. So like that's why, like you were saying, we do have to reflect, well, maybe not constantly, but on a regular basis to see where we're at. Especially like you go from a single person to having kids. Now things change a lot. Your identity is totally different now. Like how are you going to recalibrate? But if you still tied into that old person, there's going to be a lot of frustration in your life because you're like, oh, I want to be out and partying and stuff like that. But that's not what a father does. It's a different life now.
And enjoy the new identity too,
Yeah.
instead of just like, oh, I hate this new self. It's like embrace it and love it. And if you don't like it, then maybe it's not you. Then you got to find something else that you actually do love.
Yeah, it comes down to again, what is the self? Who are you? And being comfortable with the shifts. And the shift itself might be uncomfortable, might be very, very uncomfortable. But the universe moves where the universe moves. We have really no control over that. Like, and as far as the fighter piece, right? Father Time is always the winner. Right? Like he's never lost. He's undefeated. So at some point, you will be moving on, what will that look like? And just being the quote unquote best, it won't be enough. It won't be enough when that time comes for you to move on, because there's so many people that during their times were the best, right? That it's very cool. I'm taking nothing. I was never the best, so that's fine. I'm taking nothing away from, like, for example, Robert, when you were the best, right? You won the ADCC Absolute. You're the best, But I had George St. Pierre on my podcast, and he said something very interesting about this idea of best. And he was like, "Look, I was only the best that day," and he's a GOAT, right? He's not just the best; he's a GOAT. And he was like, "I was only the best that day. Like, if it was the next day, we don't know if I was the best." So this whole idea of being the best, we need to move on from that. It's cool, but, and this is somebody who was, a GOAT of goats, right? So I think we can take a little more learning from him rather than some of what we're seeing these days.
Well, it's probably given it a lot of thought because he was on top of the world for so long. And my guess is that he didn't feel satisfied. So how can you be a multiple-time UFC champion and still not feel fulfilled? Like, and my guess is that's where that reflection comes from. It's an illusion. It's a completely arbitrary mark to say I'm the best, because he's right. You can only be the best maybe you can be the best like a few years in a row at best, but he's right. Like, maybe on a bad day, he loses. One catches him. And does that diminish who he is and his effort and his merit? Does that take away from him as a person? Does that diminish his character anyway? So I think that at the end of the day, we shouldn't look at marks like a UFC belt or being the best or winning the medal. I think the real mark is, are you improving, and what are you doing to improve? Because if you're constantly improving, even if you're not, you might find more gratification with the knowledge that you are improving on yourself than with the fact you actually have a gold medal around your neck, because the gold medal itself is not necessarily satisfying.
Yeah, I think the word like skillful, I really try to use, my friend Alex got me using these two words, like rather than saying good and bad, skillful and unskillful, because like, was I skillful today? Because we can always, even when you're the best, the goal is more skill. Can I be more skillful tomorrow? Right? And even let's say you're the worst, just be more skillful. Like, so it's always, okay, that was skillful, that was unskillful. And when it's unskillful, you don't have to put this shame on yourself. Oh my God, I'm so bad, or blah, blah, that was so bad, or that was so terrible, And we can do that so easily to ourselves that it's like, all right, yep, that wasn't so skillful. I'll try to be more tomorrow. So that's really, my kid has anxiety. My oldest kid is just like me. He experiences it, and excuse me. And man, that language shift in my household has been such a game changer for him, because he doesn't have to be bad anymore. And he's got this hang up on being bad. And it's like to the point where, I couldn't believe it. The other day, he goes to see a therapist, and my wife and I had a meeting with this therapist, and he literally has like this trauma from nothing, from like this one incident. Like, she asked him when was the last time he really got in trouble. And he's 11, he remembered it from 4 years ago like it happened yesterday to him. And I was like, oh my God. Like, yeah, I was like, damn. So he's like this sensitive soul. So the language change has really helped. And it's really helped me. Like, I can just try to be more skillful.
Yeah, that's the thing, with experiences. They're different for everybody. What you might
Yeah.
perceive as like not a big deal could be, like you said, like a traumatizing event for somebody else, and
I mean,
not being
don't get me
sensitive
wrong.
to
He was
it,
in
not being
trouble.
aware.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
was in trouble. Like he got in trouble. I remember it now. Like they were in trouble. The two of them did something bad, but Marcos, sorry, Dave, I'm sure you and Marcos did something bad, right? And you got in trouble as brothers.
Buried it
No, they
somewhere.
were perfect.
They were
They're
perfect.
angels.
They were perfect. The Avalon brothers were
Mom and dad.
perfect.
I have to bring Dave's mom and dad here one of
Let's
these days
get
on the
Mom and Pop
podcast. Let's talk
Avalon
about
right now.
Tuesday
Zoom them in.
Honestly, I'm actually pretty innocent.
Yeah.
My brother was a little bit more of a shit starter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, Elliot, you see my brother in competitions. He had a short fuse back in the day.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah,
He did at
he
I
still
remember at Grappler's
almost
Quest.
flipped a few tables before.
Yep.
Yeah, he was very, particularly around people he loved. He was very defensive, like because it came from me. Because like I was telling you before, when I was younger, I was very shy, and I was also very overweight. I was 130 pounds in third grade, so now target for people to bully.
Yeah.
And whenever he saw that, he just went to fight mode, and
he's older than you, right?
he's a year older than me.
Yeah.
So,
He was
throughout
protective
life.
of you.
You're very protective. Yeah. And that continues on, like he's protective of everybody in his family and that inner circle. So like
It's good to have.
it's good. It's a protective instinct, but you also have to know how to keep it in check.
Yeah.
Because when he was younger, he would get into like road rage things where somebody come off and give him the finger, he would be getting out of the car. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Are you on your mind? You don't even know what that guy. Yeah, that guy could have a gun in his car, a knife, or God knows what. Like you never know what's going to happen. But like
And it's just
obviously now
not
he's
worth it.
wife and kids, and that has a way of tempering you a bit. He's matured a bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't mess with the Papa Bear. You're playing with the cubs, so the inner animal will come out.
It could be. I can see myself. I've never been that protective. Like my kids, only to a certain degree. Like I don't mind them. Like I'm watching. Like if I see them like arguing with kids, I'm always watching. But I kind of want to see how they resolve the issue too. But there is a part of me that feels like, oh, you touch my daughter. I'm like, like there is the little gorilla in there that like. And I've always been like pretty much in control, but there is. I think that every person has that in there. You just go ape shit. Like I've lost my shit like more than a few times in my life. For the most part, I try to tame myself, but I think we all have that. With family, it comes out a lot faster.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I like you're saying with your kid, I'm in a situation right now. I just got off the phone. I was a couple minutes late because we're dealing with the school. There's a kid. It's been going on for a little on and off for a year here, and I'm just sick of it, with this kid. And I'm like, look, Simon, my youngest, I'm like, look, if he touches you again, you're just gonna get into a fight. Like, go ahead, like you're not gonna get in trouble here at home. So, but I'm trying to deal with it on the other end with the school too, right? Because he does get in trouble at school, right? Like they can't have everyone fighting. So I understand that perspective. So I'm dealing with it. My wife and I are on the phone with the school right now. We're going back and forth of like, that's why I said I'm picking a fight for my kid, because I'm telling the school, I'm like, look, the kid won't touch him again. Like, I understand we can do whatever you want. Like, we can have agreements and whatever. But if he touches him one more time, there's going to be a fight. So I just want you to be aware of this, because I don't want the school to solve. I think it's a problem that we have going on, especially in the parenting side of things. We're trying to solve our kids' problems like all the time, and it is not healthy. Like it is just not healthy. They need to go out and solve their own problems. They need to go out and figure their own fun out. All of it. Like my wife texted me today. She was like, "Oh, all of Kanan's friends are meeting at Wildflower Park, a park by our house, to play." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. We handled this. It's because put your kids out there. Go ride your bike to your friend's house. Like the moms and dads don't have to send text messages to help our kids play. Like it's not how it works, right? Like we're did you guys ever read The Coddling of the American Mind?
I have not.
It's a
No.
great book. It's a great book just about, about what, parenting in schools and colleges, but it's got a great line in it. It said, are we preparing our kids for the road, or are we trying to prepare the road for our kids? And I feel like we're doing a lot of the other end right now,
Yeah.
right? We're trying to
100%.
prepare the
Yeah.
road for the kid. And it's not the kid's fault when they turn out and they can't do anything, because we never
You know what it is?
gave them things to
It,
do.
it, there's this huge effort to prevent any kind of suffering or pain on the part of children. And
Right.
the truth is, whatever happens to you in your childhood, however, like you get picked on, that's preparing you for life, because you're gonna get picked on your whole life. It's just gonna get worse as
Mhm.
an adult. And the thing is, because we shelter kids so much, they're completely unequipped, right, to deal with adult life, and that deals with frustration or like I'm quitting, or I think that's a big part where the anxiety comes from. Is like a sense of I can overcome this because there's no train. It's like your immune system. You have to get dirty to strengthen your immune system, and it sucks, but that's how you develop a strong immune system, right? If you mollycoddle your kid too much and you don't let him put anything in his mouth, and there's never any dirt around, and everything's perfect, spotless, clean, that's how you create a weak immune system on a child. And like no one wants to hear that, but I think that's the same for everything, for like your social environment. You have to be ready to deal with shitty people, and that means, yeah, in school some days you're gonna have a bad
Yeah.
dude. I got picked on so much. I was an American kid in Brazil. Have any idea how much I got picked on in school? Like a ton. Like I had to fight like all the time.
Now
What are we
there's
gonna do
levels
about it?
to it, right? Like there's levels to it of what's too much and too little, and like I'm trying to help my kid on the back end to make sure he doesn't get in too much trouble, but I'm for sure not trying to stop the fight, like him dealing with it.
Yeah, I don't
Like
think there's
it's
anything wrong
just
with kids. Like
no
Scrapping? Oh yeah.
they need to
scrapping.
resolve that stuff.
I
Yeah.
actually think it's almost like a good thing. Like it's part of like the journey of growing up. It's like every now and then, you're gonna have to have an because that's what's gonna happen in adult life, guys. I know it's not very politically correct, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You might as well be prepared where there's not a lot on the line and it's in small doses,
Right.
right? Versus like all of your so you're thrown into the real world, and now everyone's trying to eat you alive, and you're not prepared for it.
Yeah. And
I
I look
Rob, I know. Good, sorry.
I look back like when I guess we were all the same age, so when we were all kids, and the stuff that I would do, and nowadays it'd be like forbidden. You'd be like, "Are you crazy?" Like, but your parents are completely negligent. Like, what? You walked like 2 miles to go to school by yourself?
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
No.
You know? Or my parents once, I was like 14. Our gardener had he was kind of a, like I think he was served in the military or whatnot. And he, oh, you want to go like paintballing one day? I was like, yeah, okay. And my parents let me go paintballing with this guy who we didn't really know other than he's the gardener, with a group of like men that I've never met before, all by myself. And it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
Although the jerks on the other team, they were using like highly pressurized paintballs, which you're not supposed to use. Like there's like I forget there's a certain PSI that you're supposed to pump them. They shot a hole through my helmet, and
Fuck.
my uncle gave me like it looked like a Predator helmet, like it
Yeah.
was like full out, and they shot a hole in it. And I remember it started a whole fight situation, which got pretty tense. And here I am, a 14-year-old, there's a bunch of like a 30-year-old men about to throw down because somebody was cranking their paintballs too much, But like I lived, I remember afterwards, I'm like, this was crazy. I should have never done this. But like, like we got to do things like that, and we got to fight, and and you learn how to handle yourself, and how I joke with my girlfriend all the time, and like if you were a man, you would have gotten your ass beaten so many times. Because the type of stuff she'll say sometimes to me, I'm like, man, this is someone who's never been in a fight before.
Yeah.
Like I joke
But
with all
we're
the time.
denying that. We're denying we're denying that privilege, right? We're denying that privilege from our sons. Like, goddamn, like this is part of being a man. This is part of growing up in the world. Like, you said your girlfriend does that, right? Like, I get it. My wife does it too. I'm like, goddamn, baby, you can't fucking say that shit, but she says it. But you have to know that you can't say that shit. You can't just say what you want to say all the time. The consequence of getting your ass beat always has to be on the table, in my opinion. And you have to be like, well, I'm gonna say this, and we'll see where it goes. Or you know what? that's Francis Ngannou over there. I'm gonna shut the fuck up, you know, like,
I
you
was
know,
just
and
gonna
I'm
say,
just gonna
like, you
be,
don't get to pick a
yeah,
fight with Francis Ngannou just because he can beat your ass. It's not how it
yeah,
works. It's the
yeah,
opposite.
yeah. You have to be like, yep, I'm gonna eat that one, Francis. You cut in line. Have at it, buddy. You know,
Yeah.
and or maybe you got to go fight. I don't know. I don't know which one it is. You know, I don't know which one it is,
I would only
depending on the
fight Francis
situation.
Ngannou if I could start on his back with a rear naked choke. I'm pretty sure I'd win. Like, other than
All
that,
right, here,
I can't
let's
imagine
get
how hard it is
controversial. I'll
taking him
tell you the
down.
one time I'm fighting Francis. I'm fighting Francis. If Francis slaps me the way Gordon slapped Galvao, I
Oh,
gotta go
dude.
catch that
Oh, dude.
knockout.
We talked about
I
that.
gotta
Like,
go catch that
I
knockout.
made that exact same example too. Like, if Francis
Yeah,
slapped me like that, what would I do? I'm like, oh, it's on.
Yeah, because Francis
I
trains
don't
at
care.
Robert's gym from time to time.
yeah.
So Robert was measuring him up. He's like, I
I don't
can't
know
win
if
a
I could
fight.
take this guy down.
I got slapped.
No, man. You just go, you grab a leg, you start screaming, right? Like you better hope your homies are there, right?
Yeah.
You better hope your homies are there to come help you. But like you
Yeah.
gotta go catch that knockout if that's what it takes. You can't get fucking slapped like that.
No
Like
one
there is
ever
no
lets
way
go.
you can get slapped like that.
Andre is just never. It's 30 years from now, that shit's still gonna come up. That
Oh
tainted
yeah,
it.
yeah,
and
that was
tainted his
terrible.
career forever.
Mhm.
And like a fighter, like if
Forever.
you're an accountant and then another accountant slaps you like that, that's bad enough. I'm serious.
Yeah,
If you're an accountant,
Yeah.
like you're like a gardener, maybe
No,
someone does that,
bro.
it's already terrible. But when a
If Francis
fighter
Ngannou
gets
slaps a
slapped,
gardener like that, yeah, no.
Francis
Francis
the
Ngannou
gardener's
slaps
gotta
a
fight.
gardener, the gardener's got to go fight. You can't get slapped like that. No.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
man.
and the worst
Yeah.
part, like, let's say, like, it was private. Like, right now, like, no cameras. Robert slaps me in the face, and, like, I TikTok. I'm like, okay, at least it's only Robert. But they were on camera, man.
Oh no!
Oh,
Whole world
God.
saw it.
Everybody's watching that thing, dude. Like, at least for your, I don't know, like you said, for your legacy and all that, you gotta do something,
It's
man.
politically incorrect to say it, but I'm gonna say because I think we're missing that. You gotta man the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, you can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you said you gotta man. Like, but that's what I think is missing in this equation. You gotta man up. You gotta get some pair of cojones, like hold on to them and go like, I still got them. They're there, and go to war. Like, what else you gonna do, man? You gotta
What else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be so politically incorrect. Just like I don't know. I put out something every Monday on my podcast, like just a motivational thing or whatever. I've been talking about like the idea of toxic masculinity, like to say like like what you just said, you got to man up. Man, masculinity, being a man's not toxic. The behavior that we're calling toxic masculinity is very toxic. I agree with. I just don't think it's being a man. So
I don't understand what they mean by toxic masculinity. Like I hear a lot of these new slogans and like these new ideas coming up, and I'm like, to me, they're so they're so irrational. They don't make any sense to me. So like I have a hard time even keeping up. What is meant by toxic masculinity?
Donald Trump, right? I think that like all of the behaviors that Donald Trump does, wherever you see him as a president, just how he is as a human, like I think that's what would be classified as toxic masculinity. I would agree that the behavior is very toxic. I would just disagree that it's masculine. I was like, that's not the definition of masculine.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just, it's toxic. You know, whatever you like his rhetoric or not, the point, but. It is nothing to do with being a man. What I understand is it's something that if you say something like be a man or act like a man or I think it has to do with a conflict with what is perceived as a gender role. When you say something like you're being ultra masculine, like that means you are saying that there are roles in nature, which clearly there are. It's not me, it's Mother Nature. But I think that's what is meant, and it's not clear to me what exactly you're supposed to be like. Because when I see the people who are not toxic masculines, they're very feminine, and that's not something I want to be, or I would want my sons to be. And I don't think women are attracted to that to begin with.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about like what I would consider like a traditional masculine role would be someone who's assertive, who's confident, and willing to get their hands dirty if they have to protect what needs to be protected. You know, whether
or
it's
just
family.
do the job that's necessary, right? Like just do get your hands dirty in a lot of different arenas. Like If that's the laundry or if that's protecting the family, the laundry needs to get done. Do the fucking laundry and cook the dish, clean the dishes and cook the food. If that's what's necessary, right? If that's if that's where your role is, Now, like just for example, in my house, man, I can't fix shit. I'm terrible at it. But you know who's really good at it? My wife. My wife's amazing at it. My wife set a bathtub by herself. I was like, damn, babe, holy shit. And it's not easy, right? So we switch the roles a little bit. You know who cleans and does the laundry? You know who like cleans the kitchen more and does the laundry? Me. Because she's doing something else. But that doesn't make one of us less masculine, the other, or her less feminine.
Exactly.
All you do is
that's not masculine.
You just redefine it. Like I do all the cooking, but cooking's manly as fuck right now. So I'm good with that.
And that's not. I mean, I guess when I say, I guess what I'm like is that I think men are meant. We're supposed to be confident and strong figures emotionally, and I think that's when I say masculine. Like that's kind of what I mean, and I think that's normal. But it's almost like the whole idea of masculinity is being attacked, like the whole thing altogether. I'm not suggesting that like it's you're gay for doing the dishes or cooking. I'm like, no, I wish I knew how to cook. I don't. I can do the dishes. I don't like it, but I can, but like I don't think it's unmanly to do something like clean the house. That's not what I'm suggesting. But I think there's a lot about being a man. Like even like okay, like a kid slaps you don't go to the principal. You punch him in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's to me is a masculine thing to do, and I don't think that's bad. I think that someone hits you, you should have the right to like punch him back. Like what the fuck?
And it's not just that. A lot of people think,
though.
Yeah,
that one I want my daughter to do too. Like if someone punches
my daughters are not leaving the house unless they're black belts in jiu-jitsu. That's the rule. Like you're gonna have to learn how to scrap. Like you're gonna have to learn how to take someone down and choke them out if you have to. You're not leaving the house until you're a black belt. That's the rule.
Yeah, and some people think like who are anti-violence are like, oh, like you shouldn't hit somebody or you should resolve it. But the reality is, like on a practical level, pain is a very good communicator.
Yeah.
When you can't reason with somebody, and like there's just a fundamental disagreement that you can't get across, pain teaches you. And that's why, like for me, like when you hit children, it's very young children that you can't reason with yet. And the idea is not revenge or anger. It's just like, hey, snap out of what you're doing. Like, this is what I'm trying to get something across to you, And that's the intent behind it. So like if someone's touching you or pushing you, you smack them back, like you cross a boundary, and this is what's gonna happen. You pass it. It's a very practical thing to do. It's not like, your ego is crushed, and that's why you're trying to, hit somebody. No, it's like you're setting boundaries because, like, what happened with Galvao, he's like set an example for a lot of people, a negative example, which is like, he let this guy get walked all over. First of all, he started the altercation, and then he let himself get walked all over. It's a very terrible example to follow.
It would have, the Galvao example, if he didn't start it, then it would have been different, right? If Gordon just would have walked up to him and smacked him, it would have been totally different. So
the worst part is what Dave brought up when we were talking about this is that after he started it, he got bitch slapped, and he kept chasing Gordon afterwards, and just still talking.
And then got bitch slapped again.
And then got
bitch slapped again.
And you try to sell people your website.
Yeah, no, we're done. It's over.
Dude.
I told my students,
hands. I don't know, man.
I told my students, I was like, man, guys, we got two rules going on right now. If you ever see me get bitch slapped like that and not do anything, you can cancel and I'll give you all of your money back that you have ever paid. Yeah. And two, if you're present when I get bitch slapped like that, you better be in there with me.
I was talking to Pedro Pano and Cavaca about this on the podcast we did in Portuguese, and he said that that's it's a side effect too of a culture where there's no such thing as loyalty anymore. Because back in the day, or even one of my bros, like I consider Dave a good friend of mine. Like if I saw him, and if you didn't have time to react or whatever, like I'd jump on the guy in a heartbeat. Like there's no question in my mind that I would go to war for my bros. And Andres days he gets slapped and everyone's just watching. I'm like, where's your fucking brothers, man? Like, what's happening there? Where are your troops, man? Like, where are your loyal troops? Because I would like to think that my closest friends would attack anyone who attacked me, like in a heartbeat. They wouldn't even think about it, right? It wouldn't be a question. Like you just go. You don't ask questions. What happened? you punch first, then you ask who's right and who's wrong.
people that you could be totally wrong, but my closest people, it doesn't matter if I'm totally wrong. They're in it with me. Like, that's the thing. Like, I could be totally in the wrong, but if they see it, they come. Let's go. So
Yeah,
it was,
that's my asshole. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Even if he was in the wrong,
Yeah.
it's my dude, you know? Yeah. No,
But
so
back
that
to
whole
the point, like you know, they'll, you know, and I definitely stand a little more left of center, but I think the attacking of the masculine gender, I think it's a mistake. I think we need stronger, more confident, more men who know who they are. More, you know, like back what we were talking about before. Now, look, men got to step it up here. I don't think men are doing a super great job of being vulnerable, being emotionally there for other men. You know, being emotionally there for their kids. So yeah, I mean, we have some work to do. I can see the reason to attack men, not masculine traits, though.
Yeah, and I think part of it, like you said, like one of the things that traditionally masculinity, well, I guess toxic masculinity is associated with is like the lack of vulnerability or like emotional accessibility. And like to me, that's a not necessarily a sign of masculinity, it's more of a sign of somebody who doesn't have a good circle, right? Like you don't have loyal brothers around you to protect you because you wouldn't want to be emotionally available to somebody you don't trust, right? You would feel like they could use that against you. Like if I was going to compete against Robert and I start telling him all my dirty secrets, I'm like, that's kind of a dangerous thing to tell a competitor.
Yeah.
Because he's going to come and he's going to use all that against me.
Yeah.
But I think that's a sign more of the times like there's so many people that don't really have trust of the people around them that they can't even open themselves up. And you're talking about not just brothers, I mean wives, you know, like people holding back stuff from their wives, you know, and it's stuff that's very important to them and that's holding them back. I think that's again a sign of weakness from that person because they don't know who around them to trust. And if you don't have people around you that you trust that you can open yourself up to, you know, it's a problem
It
because
takes courage to open up.
It does.
And I think it really comes.
Even opening up to yourself is a challenge, right? But then there's certain things that you can't uncover on your own. There might be it's so deep in there. You know, that's when you go to a therapist or whatnot, you know, and to help dig that out of you. But if you don't have the,
it's one of those things, it comes down again like this who you are thing because, you know, like know thyself because when you don't know who you are, your weaknesses can be used against you. They truly can. And when you know exactly who you are, what would you like to say to me about where I'm bad? I know I can be I know I can be insecure. I know I have this imposter syndrome sometimes. I know I have anxiety. I know I can snap really quickly when certain things are triggered. So good for you. Go ahead. Use like I always like to liken it to 8 Mile. You guys saw the movie 8 Mile, right?
I did
Eminem,
right? With Eminem, right? And you know, some dude fucks his girl and you know, he throws up on himself and he loses his job and all this stuff happens and you know, he's in these rap battles and he can't perform. But then in the last rap battle, like he makes it to the finals against Papa Doc and he chooses to go first and normally you want to go second in the rap battle. And he chooses to go first, and he just literally says everything that Papa Doc is going to say. He's going to say, like, you're going to say, homie, fuck my girl. You're going to say this, blah, 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 blah. He goes, now what you got, motherfucker? And the guy just has nothing to say because Eminem took it from him. Eminem knew exactly who he was. He knew exactly what he was. He goes, yeah, that's me. So what? So it comes down to that. Who are you piece? And is that piece, like, I don't know. I say my I ams to myself every morning. I'm a father, I'm a teacher, I'm a student, I'm a leader, I'm a fighter, and I'm enough and I'm a survivor. So like every morning when I get up, I do my thing and I say those things to myself. So that way, even when I have a skillful day or unskillful day, none of them touch those things because those things are just always true. And I think if more men could know who they are and really work through that, then all of our weaknesses, we wouldn't have to try to hide them so much. You know, they can just be seen and we can just try to work on them rather than to be like, oh, no, that's not me. So I don't know, just my 2 cents on the whole toxic masculinity.
No, 100%.
Yeah, that's a solid point. If you know what you are, and it's like when you have a nickname that you don't like and you try to shy away from it, that's when everybody rags on you, right? Like
that's called your nickname now. That's your
exactly.
nickname now.
You know, the way I look at someone trying to pick on you or point something about whatever is like there are only two possible scenarios when someone offends you, right? It's either true or false, right? If I offend Dave and I say, Dave, you're hairy, right? It's true. Like he can either accept it and be like, or shave or do something, or it was going to be false. And if it's false, why do you care? So if it's true, you accept it and just like it is what it is. I'm aware of it, so you can't offend me because I've known this my whole life,
Yeah.
right? And if it's false, like why do you care? So like to me, being offended is not a real thing. Like it's not a place to be. You can't be offended unless you have issues with yourself. Because if you're overweight, right, and someone calls you fat, why would you be offended if you're fully aware of it? Like, I don't understand why anyone like, okay, like Rob, you got a massive head and a hole in your chest. I'm aware of it. I've known it my whole life. You're not telling me anything I don't see in front of the mirror every day. Why would I be offended?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like it's I think it has to do with a lot of it goes back to self-esteem. Like are you okay with yourself? And if you are, like how is anyone gonna hurt you?
Well, it's
We
kind
take
of
a lot of things personally, right? Like we break the four agreements. We break the second agreement of the four agreements is we take it personally. And as soon as you start taking it personally, you start to become offended.
yeah. That's why you took the words out I was going to say. You know, those people who look to insult and others are usually spitting out the venom of their own. You know, like
Yeah.
the same type of insults they use against you is usually the same type of insults they use against themselves.
Yeah.
That's why they're so good at it. They can recognize the weakness they see in themselves and others and exploit it.
I don't know, if someone's attacking you, I think it says more about the person who's trying to hurt you. Because if you're trying to hurt someone, that means you're not. Because here's the thing: the happiest people I've ever met in my life, they've never attacked anyone because they're perfectly okay with how the world is and they accept it and they're fine. But I think there's something about attacking other people that says something about how you feel, right? It's really about the person. So when people attack me, I always be like, oh man, like, there's probably a lot going on with that person. They probably don't like that thing about themselves, you know, or they feel insecure about the way they look or whatever. But I think that I should almost like run. And this is why I don't think political correctness is so damaging in some instances, and this is one of them. Like in Brazil, all we did was make fun of each other. If you listen to two Brazilians talking, there's a 90% chance they're talking shit to each other. Like all they do is make the political correctness is not a real thing there. Like all they do is make fun of you the whole time. They're making fun of you, whatever. If your girlfriend cheated on you, they're gonna tease you about that for the rest of your life. No one's gonna go, oh, that's messed up. I'm sorry. Are you okay? No, they're gonna make fun of you. If you've got a birth defect, they're gonna make fun of your birthday, and that's how it is. Right? You can't.
But your
it's
best
just,
friend's going to do it, you're saying.
your best friends are going to do it. A, it's a sign that they love you. That's why they're making fun of you. And B, you become immune to it at some point because you realize it's like, it's not that important. I can make fun of him. He can make fun of me. We don't have to be offended all the time. And you know what? He's my bro. And when someone slaps me, I know that guy has my back.
It's almost like they're doing
the idea of a microaggression, it drives me insane. It drives me insane. It totally drives. Like, man, I want to be microaggressed against all the time. Please, right? Like, please, just microaggress against me all fucking day.
You think microaggress? I can't
Yeah,
even keep
man. Yeah, microaggression. It's the new PC thing. Like, if you ask somebody where they're from, it's a microaggression because you're assuming that they couldn't actually be from where you are. So therefore, how could they be accepted and with you? Oh yeah, bro. Man, trust me. So with 150 employees, man, you have to do sensitivity training so that you don't get fucking sued. So we had to do a sensitivity training, and we did 4 of them throughout the schools, and the first one talked about that. And I immediately called whoever, like our one of our assistants who set it up. I was like, yo, we need to change that because we can't fucking say that because all we do in jiu-jitsu is microaggress. This is all we do, right? All day we microaggress. I'm trying to choke you the fuck out, right? I'm trying to beat you up. This is a fucking like this. This is what we teach people how to handle in their real life.
I'm trying to choke you out because I love you.
Yeah, because I love you. Because I don't want someone who's a shithead to choke you out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
microaggression.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of the benefits of martial arts and fighting in general, right? When someone's choked you unconscious, which I have the pleasure of had many times.
Both ends, right? We've been on both ends.
Actually, I've only been on one end. Like I've never, it's my whole career. I've never, well, not never. I've only had like 2 injuries I've caused on somebody, and it was their fault.
You never
And
choked some people. People tapped every time.
I've had people when I do heel hooks, they tap before it even sets in competition. And a choke, I've always had people tap, So that's why like people like, oh, they always expect that I've broken people's arms and stuff like that. Like, never have. Everybody was always tapped, or I didn't get it. But I've never had that problem. But what I was going to with the point was that when you've gone through those type of real existential crisis, which you're gonna die or you're gonna get something broken, when people like insult you, it's like that's all you got. Like there's no substance behind it, right? Or the intent is not serious. Like if Robert asked me where I'm from, I don't really care. Or if Robert says, "Hey, you look like a hairy ape," probably true, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't bother me because it's not a real thing. Like to me, real
How
problems.
else are you supposed to start a conversation? Hey, how you doing? What's your name? Where are you from?
Yeah, exactly.
And now that's a microaggression. Jesus Christ.
Oh, forget about that. We're not even going to get into the pronouns here, okay?
Yeah.
Microaggression. That's a new one.
Guys, I actually got to go. I don't got time for pronouns.
Dude, no, but this is a lot of fun, man, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. So, Eliot, let the people know where they can find you, your podcast, your book, and all of your stuff.
So both are called The Gospel of Fire, the podcast and the book. The best way to find them both is off of my Instagram, Fire Marshall 205. And right now I'm actually giving my book away as a downloadable e-copy, like the manuscript, like as a downloadable PDF. You can go on my Instagram and get it for free. So that is again, Fire Marshall 205. That's the best way to contact me. I try to respond to everyone. I do my very best to respond to everyone on Instagram. I'm not the best anywhere else on Twitter or Messenger or any of that. So hit me up on Instagram. Go check out my stuff. My website's elliottmarshall.com. If you're a school owner and you're looking for some help, it's easton.online. So we have a bunch of free webinars there, like how to do sales, how to set appointments, and then I don't even remember what the other one's. I don't remember what the other one is. So, but yeah, we have 3 free webinars on easton.online. So yeah, those 2 places mostly and then you'll get whatever you need.
Excellent. Again, people take advantage of it, especially if you're a school owner, because everybody wants to find the latest YouTube video or Barumbalo or whatever. That's not going to make your business work, right? So it's a great service you're doing, Eliot, helping people out and giving webinars.
We start with core values. Like what are the core values of you in the school? And then we go into all the business stuff, right? Like the business stuff, like if you don't know, if you will go here or there for money, then, I mean, just go sell drugs because, right? Like that's where it ends. Like just do whatever that will get you richer than being a martial arts teacher. So what are the values that you hold? What are the core values of the school? So we start there and then we do the business stuff. Like, are you paying attention to your leads, getting more leads? How do you answer the phone? How do you set up, getting someone into your school? So, and it's all got to follow in line with the core values. So yeah, check us out. Easton.online, Fire Marshall 205. Hit me up, Fire Marshall 205. And if you're looking for Easton Online, I'll get you to Easton Online too.
Awesome.
Guys,
thank you, man. It was a pleasure. Eliot, it was a pleasure. If you're ever in Vegas, man, definitely stop by. I'll stop by, check your gym out next time I'm in Colorado. And yeah, man, always a pleasure.
Sounds great, guys. Nice to see you. Nice to talk to you. Thanks for getting me in.
Absolutely, man. Take care. Until next time.
Ciao. Yep.